We are only 11 days away from the deadline for William Nylander to sign a contract and play for the 2018-19 NHL season, whether that be with the Toronto Maple Leafs or any other NHL team. Information this weekend from Saturday headlines from Chris Johnston and Elliot Friedman, NHL insiders, suggest the Maple Leafs may not necessarily rush to make a trade. They might be content to let him sit out the season if necessary. We'll discuss all the latest coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, the latest information on the William Nylander saga here continues, with Chris Johnston and Elliot Friedman suggesting that the Maple Leafs very well might be content to let William Nylander just sit out the season and deal with it later on, should they not come to contract terms here with him before the December 1st deadline or decide to make a trade. Now, of course, this has been ongoing really since the summertime. We've heard numerous reports, numerous rumors regarding what he wants for a contract, where he could be traded, and all that stuff. It's really been kind of a topic that's been beaten to death. But of course, we're down to crunch time here. We're only 11 days away now from a potential deadline that could see William Nylander be required to sit out for the remainder of the season. Now, if that were to happen, would not be surprising to see him catch on with another team over in the KHL or one of the European leagues or somewhere else to get some playing time so he can continue playing this season. Of course, if that deadline comes and goes and William Nylander ends up sitting out this season, it does not mean that there's a foregone conclusion here that this is going to carry over into next summer. The Toronto Maple Leafs could also use another deadline, which is the NHL's trade deadline in February, and potentially trade him then. Now, of course, any NHL team going into the playoffs would not be interested at that point in time. That wouldn't make sense because they would not be able to get him into their lineup and utilize his services. But any other teams that are outside the playoffs looking in and maybe looking towards next year very well might be willing to make a deal at that point in time as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean if the deadline comes and goes here on December the 1st that it's a foregone conclusion that this carries over to next summer. Now, it seems as though the narrative and the story's changed here numerous times. We've heard numerous reports that the Maple Leafs are entertaining trade offers. They wanted other teams to start putting together packages and information on what players they would be willing to consider trading, not trading, kind of putting together some offers, not necessarily formal offers or engaging in formal trade talks, but they wanted to engage around the NHL and kind of determine, what's out there. And now the latest is that they might very well be willing to let him sit. You can't help but wonder, though, some of the information that Johnston and Friedman have is obviously coming from Leaf sources, and maybe they're trying to put more pressure on not only on Nylander to come to terms on a contract, but from other teams to really ante up their offers and make a better deal on the table here to really consider getting something done. Like I said, we're only 11 days away. We're kind of getting to that 11th hour now where there's not much time left for them to either sign him, trade him, or make him sit out. A decision will be here before we know it. So for the list of NHL teams that we've reported on and that are speculated to be highly interested in William Nylander, could this type of report kind of really get them to ante up their offers and really put their best foot forward here to kind of get an offer on the table that will really entice the Maple Leafs? Now, as we know, sometimes trade talks really are drug out over a longer period of time as teams kind of go back and forth, discuss certain players that may or may not be kind of, willing to be parted with here. Or we don't really have any additional information to suggest different teams or maybe in the mix. I mean, we've heard Carolina all along. We've heard LA to a degree. Friedman's mentioned the Flyers numerous times, which I'm not really sure that one kind of makes sense to me, but he views the Flyers as a stealth team. I've seen some reports on the Rangers from Larry Brooks indicating that they may very well be willing to part with defenseman Brady Shea if they were trying to put together a package to the Leafs for William Nylander as well. So that's maybe something that's a little bit interesting. I don't think Shea's quite the exact defenseman they'd be looking for in a deal, but certainly an interesting piece for sure. He is a type of player I kind of view as a really bright up-and-coming defenseman, so certainly something the Leafs would at least take a look at for sure. As I've always said throughout this whole process, I do feel the Maple Leafs are very much in an area of strength here. I mean, at the same time, you want William Nylander signing in your lineup, but they're doing extremely well without him. Plus, they've been dealing with Austin Matthews out of the lineup injured, and the team has still been doing very well. They just completed a California road trip and did extremely well out there. So, I mean, if they're winning without these guys, they're only going to be better with them in their lineup. Now, at the same time, you can make the argument that even though the Leafs have been doing well without Nylander, they could very well be that much better here again with Nylander. And I still believe that the Leafs would want more than anything to get him signed and get him into their lineup. He fits very well with Austin Matthews. Long term, those two could be very much a dynamic duo in Toronto, and it only makes the most sense to get him signed. But at the same time, you can't cave to all demands here. You got to go what's best for the team, and you have to be able to make it work financially. Now, as far as the Leafs being content to let Nylander sit out, I guess the part of that does make sense to me is I don't think they should trade him just for the sake of trading him. I mean, as we approach that December 1st deadline for him to play this year, If the right deal is not on the table, I don't think they're in a position where they really have to trade him. Obviously, they're stronger with him in the lineup. They very well could be a stronger team as well by trading him and getting the right pieces and assets to put in their lineup as well. But either way, they have to proceed with caution here. This is a very tricky situation. Kyle Dubas was on record promising that they can and they will keep all their big three RFAs. Obviously, that was something that was promised to John Tavares when he was signed. So they want to tread carefully here. And if they have to make a trade, they want to make sure they get the right trade to get the right pieces back. I mean, if they don't want to end up in a situation like we saw with the Edmonton Oilers trading Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle and not being happy at all with the return of those wingers. Obviously, we've seen Taylor Hall go on to have an MVP-type season for the Devils, and Eberle had certainly a pretty decent year last year with the Islanders as well. So certainly a little bit of a different situation there. They weren't forced to be traded due to contract demands, but still sort of the same idea. You don't want to jump the gun and get it wrong here. You have to proceed here to get it right, and Kyle Dubas seems to be extremely patient to get this right here. Obviously, this is his first big signing for an RFA. Could potentially be one of his first big trades as well if he does go down that road. So he wants to tread carefully here and make sure this is done properly to set up this team for long-term success. So as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down below in the comment section. We can continue the conversation on the Nylander saga here. Do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs, if they can't come to terms with the contract by December the 1st, should they let Willie sit out, or do they make sure they get the right deal and really pressure the other teams to get this deal done so they can remove the distraction and either have Nylander in the lineup or have another asset in return that they make a trade for to get this done with so they can move forward and get the best team on the ice for the best chance to win this season? If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button before you leave as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.